Well, this is Leandro Torres for my critical assignment number 2, a mental health case study. Here I'll be talking about Lisa the Painful and its main character, Brad. First, starting off, Lisa the Painful takes place in a land called Olathe during a post-apocalyptic world where gangs of perverts and warlords are rampant, with only a few places of civilization still standing, being small towns and other type settlements. The average citizen of Olathe tends to be melancholy and indifferent to things like murder and other types of crimes, thanks to little to no point in life. Everything, this all happened thanks to an event that happened before the game started, called the White Flash. The White Flash was a light that engulfed the entire world, and for whatever reason, taking out all women with it. And thanks to this, the human race will probably die out within the century, which has reasonably distressed the population of Olathe. Which leads us to Brad's main struggle in the story, which I'll talk about in a second. Brad is a 35-year-old man that lives in the wastelands of Olathe. He lives with his friends Richard, Sticky, and Cheeks. During the beginning of the game, Brad discovers a abandoned baby girl, which he aptly names Buddy, as it's the only thing he can think of at the time. Knowing what would happen to them and Buddy if anyone were to discover the girl, they decide to raise her in secret, shielding her from the outside world. And after returning home from a drug-induced bender, he finds his friends and Buddy were kidnapped by a local gang and sets out to rescue them. Brad grew up in an unhealthy environment with his abusive father, which, thanks to his abuse, his sister Lisa committed suicide in their childhood. So Brad is a introverted man who often keeps to himself and is very self-loathing. Externally, he shows little to no emotion, amply just to talk and answer questions. But when anything threatens him or his family, he is fully willing to stand up for his friends and gets beat up by local bullies during his childhood, shielding his friends from danger. Brad was a martial artist before the Flash, which he became one in order to help teach people to defend themselves. Thanks to what happened with his father, and not wanting other people to suffer like he did. Brad also suffers from hallucinations of his father and his sister, which cause him great distress. It is also one of the reasons why I diagnosed him for substance use disorder. Brad, in order to null his feelings and to avoid hallucinations, takes a drug called Joy, which can give extreme euphoria, and helps you not feel as much. Joy is also highly addictive, and so when Brad doesn't take it for a period of time, he suffers extreme withdrawal symptoms. Brad's father was also a alcoholic, which can probably contribute to how he can suffer from conditions such as SUDs, aka substance use disorder. People who also take Joy usually suffer violent tendencies and outbursts towards others, with its worst side effects causing mutations. And this has caused his friends and him distress. And in order to here we go. He, in order to prevent that, he tries to abstain from the drug, but unbeknownst to them, he has relapsed several times, and is currently in a relapse right at the moment when the game starts. Another thing I could diagnose him with is post-traumatic stress disorder, thanks to the abuse from his father and the death of his sister. First of all, as mentioned before, he suffers from vivid hallucinations of his sister and abusive father, and sometimes even sees hallucinations of his father's face on other random objects and animals that he encounters. To avoid these hallucinations, he tries taking the drug Joy, as already pre-mentioned. He also blames himself for what happened to his sister on himself, which, and he constantly affects his mood. He's also prone to reckless behavior, constantly putting himself in danger. And he gets mad whenever anyone tries to talk about his past and violent outburst. Which means he fits all 5 criteria for PTSD. Well, the cause of his mental health struggles for the next question. I'm using the humanistic theory. Throughout his life, Brad has been missing the unconditional love he needs, which is stage 3 of the triangle. And with the death of his closest family member, drove him further away from self-actualization. In order to fulfill the hole that was left there, he turned to substances such as joy and like alcohol as well. Until he encountered Buddy, which he's using to fulfill his third step of love and belonging. He sees this as a way to redeem himself for what happened with Lisa, and is willing to do anything to protect her and keep his third stage fulfilled. Through his efforts for raising Buddy, he believes his sister will forgive him and is one of his only ways for atoning. And so he's raising Buddy in hopes that his dead sister approves, and which is one of the only ways he can have self-worth, which is very unhealthy. For treatments, my research and through the lectures, you should definitely go through some co-occurring treatments, thanks to his probable PTSD and definitely SUD. I recommend agonistic medications, which would be a good treatment, as considering he does use his medication, not the medication, the Joy, the drug, to medicate his hallucinations and his feelings associated with his PTSD. So giving him something that can mimic its effects with less addicting properties and side effects that are a lot less harmful, can help him deal with his PTSD while easing him away from such drugs, and can help manage his treatment for his PTSD. And for his PTSD to go along with his co-occurring treatments, CPT, or AKA cognitive progressing therapy, is something that he should probably look into as well, as he rarely talks about his feelings. And from what happens and what is shown, it looks like his friends don't know much about it, how he feels, thinking that he's cool and that he's doing fine. So getting him to talk to a therapist and have him write down what he thinks and how he feels about the events of the trauma that happened can really help him, and so he can evaluate and modify his beliefs and thinking and develop skills to deal with it instead of avoiding his trauma via drugs and other such methods. Next thing. Well, I do like how they represent Brad and everything else in the game. I'm kind of disappointed in the way they portray Buddy as someone who was. Buddy themselves was shielded from the world, very isolated, very alone. I can understand why she would be resentful. In her following game, which is Lisa the Joyful, she's very resentful to Brad. So I can understand why someone would be hostile and resentful to someone who kept them kind of imprisoned. Some of this hostility could be due to the drug she takes, but we are not really given too much, which is joy. We're given little to no context of why she feels this way. So I would like it if they explored more of her feelings and maybe more of her past with Brad, so they could better explain why she's so resentful and hostile to others. Next is my preferences, and yeah, that's my thing.